Hello everyone in YouTube land. Do you want to see how I turn an ugly old veneer table into this beauty? Stay tuned. It was another long transformation, but so worth it to this piece. Hi, my name is Packy, creator of Packrat's Shack. I upcycle furniture, build out of pallet wood, finish interior spaces, and have a vendor booth for my creations. Welcome to my world. Okay, yes, I did forget to take before pictures again, but it started out with these brass-looking metal legs and plastic levelers that were all broken and wonky. I used Rust-Oleum forged hammered silver spray paint after a good cleaning and scuff sand to bring these legs into this century. I replaced the levelers with silver metal glides. Here you can see what the table looked like. This is not real wood. It is a Formica veneer. This flexible trim is a Zangby product I found on Amazon. I like the ease of working the product onto the surface, but I will say it is a very soft product, so it tends to easily be damaged after the finish has been applied. Now I am adding a layer of Minwax 2-part epoxy wood filler to the splice going down the table. So I'm done with the first coat of wood filler and sanding it back, and I never did put wood filler into this area where when I ran out of trim I had to glue and clamp on new trim. The reason I never mixed it up and put any on there was because I knew I'd probably need a second coat in certain areas, which you can see how uneven this top was between the two sides, which is why I mounted it together, glued and clamped, plus reinforced it with wood pieces that are screwed together, holding the two sections together. And this is all just trial and error to try to keep something out of the landfill and to make it look good for somebody. You can see how uneven the tops were when they butted together, and this is what I'm trying to fill and even out. So I am going to need another coat of wood filler to span a longer distance over this hump, because I've sanded that back even going through some of the veneer, and I'm just not getting the bump to go away. So I'm going to have to level it out a little over a little wider of a space. And then over here you can see how it's sanding back, and it's like a ripple effect, like there's waves of where it was higher, and you can feel that height. So I'm going to have to put more wood filler epoxy through there as well. I'm hoping that once I sand all of these areas back, that the table overall is reasonably level and a good canvas for my finishing ideas. So I forgot to set up the camera and record. But basically I moved the tabletop out to the garage and spray painted it with the Rust-Oleum primer. And I've done several coats to try to blend in the texture between the original Formica top and the the two-part wood filler epoxy. All right, moved back down into the basement after the primer coat. I'm going to go ahead and give it a light sanding just to get off of any of the roughness. I'm using a 320 sanding paper. I will just wrap around the coarser grit sanding pad that I have. And again, just to do a light scuff sand basically, and make sure, since it was a spray primer, making sure I get anything off that didn't really So we're gonna walk away from this project right now and let this dry. I will return shortly to sand it down and wipe off the debris with the tack cloth again. Then we'll be ready for the first coat of paint. See you then. All right, let's continue on with painting the first layer of paint. I am choosing to use this all-in-one mineral paint, Silk, by Dixie Belle. I've chosen a black, which is Anchor in this particular line, and it does say all-in-one. So technically you'd think I wouldn't need to prime this before we got started, but it specifically says in the directions for this Silk product that if it's a slick, smooth surface, you should start with priming it with Slick Stick first, which is a primer product that they sell. So I instead opted for this primer because there was so much of a difference going on between the surface itself and the two-part epoxy that I put down, that I was thinking this might, in this particular case, be a better choice. But we'll go ahead and get started with painting. I'm just gonna give this a stir real quick, because it's always good to stir paint thoroughly before getting going on a project. So we got that. I am also using a mini roller. This is supposed to leave a very fine, smooth surface behind. It's just a standard Purdy roller. I always lint roll my rollers before I get started to try to minimize the amount of debris left behind just from packaging products. There's a little bit of lint behind, but not a lot. It's still very, very sticky. Sometimes I actually, with different rollers, not Purdy, but different kind of brands, sometimes I do that like 5 or 6 times before I get enough stuff off of it to make me feel comfortable to use it. I'm also just using this off-brand brush that has a tip to it because I'll be able to work the paint within the design work there. Okay, it's later in the day. This is had plenty of time to dry. First coat. I got some 320 sandpaper grit that I'm just going to do a really light scuff sand over the top. Okay, so to me it looks like we got good solid coverage now, and I want to reveal what I'm going to attempt to do next, which will be adding on a decoupage portrait. And after I get it put on, then I'm gonna go back over the surface with the black to kind of blend in the edges and maybe hopefully get somewhat of an oval shape in as I work it. So as I talked about earlier with the silk line being an all-in-one product, I mentioned about the primer and not needing to prime because it has the primer in here. But I explained why I went ahead and primed this as I did. This all-in-one also means that it has a top coat. So technically you wouldn't need to put any kind of clear coat or sealant on top of it. A lot of people, when it comes to tables and something that would be highly used in high traffic area, then they go ahead and do cover it with more extra sealant. And this silk line extra coat is a great top sealant, top coat for these products. It's also a great product to use putting the decoupage paper down. I don't like messes all over everything. So, and then what this balled up saran wrap is for, to work on smoothing out the the decoupage paper as we put it on. So I'm not sure why after you pour it in your clean container you need to stir it. Maybe it's to work out the air bubbles. But I'm just going to gently stir that. And when it says to dip the clean sponge in, it says just a thin coat. So being that I don't have a lot in there anyway, so this is the thin coat, and we're just worried about this paper right now staying centered and trying to work in a way where we can smooth out any wrinkles and stuff. So it should be something that you can just use a thin coat. It says apply it in thin coats every 2 hours. I'm thinking maybe I don't have enough there. I'll need to pour out some more. Don't really want that to. Okay, so is what I want to do is try to just slowly push this down so that there's no wrinkles. You're supposed to go ahead and put after it's down, put a top coat of this all the way across it. So we're gonna go ahead and do one layer of sealing the tabletop at the same time. So seeing how fast it can go, I went ahead and got more, poured it more in, hoping I'll be able to get the whole table without having to stop. I did see a lump in there, so I wanted to get that out. All right, I'm going to start with the decoupage and work my way out. I see that there's some thin spots and stuff, and I'm not, when I first started, and then I'd make sure I got the picture sealed and then went that way and then came back and started that. Well, I can see the sponge marks. So it starts to set really, really quickly. And hopefully when this is all dry in a couple hours and I come back, I can do a light scuff sanding. Hopefully that'll even all of that out. And then when I do it the next time, I'm just gonna have to start at one side and work my way all the way across at the same time, working my way in one direction. I guess my focus was just too much on making sure that the picture got sealed down in a relatively quick manner, since you're supposed to have the it works as the adhesive below it, and then hurry up and put a top coat on top of it. Stuff, I went ahead and I sanded this down, scuff sanding, and you can tell that the way I applied the extra coat, you can still see the like streak patterns or whatever, so to speak. So I don't really like that showing. I mean, I've sanded it down and now it's smooth, but I think when I go forward and putting down the sealant, I'm going to use a roller and see if I like that version better now that this is all secured down, and go that route to see if I like that better. This feels smooth, you can still see it, but after we're done painting on it again, that will be gone. So anyway, let's get to it. I want to fade in the corners and try to make somewhat of an oval here. Today I'm going to use this style of oval brush to kind of work it in an oval pattern. Okay, we're back on the table. It's dried overnight. I just see a couple little pieces that need to be scuff sanded off, and then we're going to get going on the sealing of the piece. Okay. Some debris is coming off. That's on there. Okay, putting my hair up so hair doesn't fall in. Got the lint off of this. And like I said last time, I didn't like the streaks left behind from dragging it with the sponge. So we're gonna try rolling it on this time. And another thing I remembered, when you're working with dark colors, it's good to put a drop of the dark color in with your sealant. So this has just a hint of, I mean, that's only a drop in there that puts a little bit of color to it, but that way you won't end up having any white splotches if there was a thicker area. So I'm going to put on at least 2 coats of this. I want to make sure I have even coverage on the roller. Okay. Okay, so after I would get it on there, then I try to lightly feather it out so there's no roller marks. And I'm hoping that when it's all said and done, that it levels out and becomes a nice coat. Not sure how this is gonna work. First time I've ever used a roller with this. And although I thought this one was very small pile and thin, it seems like it is leaving some texture. Okay, so I'm back with the table, and from a distance it looks good. Unfortunately, well, we already knew that was gonna be wherever I tried to fix where some lumps were, where there was swelling from moisture damage in the past. I tried to even them out, but you can still somewhat see them. But anyway, in some lighting from a distance the finish looks good, but then when you get close, I do not like the finish that the roller left behind. This did not self-level at all. So I'll be sanding this back and trying to get a smooth working surface, and then we will seal it again. And I probably will acquaint myself with some different YouTube tutorials to see which version other people liked. This feels pretty nice and smooth. So I have acquainted myself, or tried, okay, I would say I have tried to acquaint myself with applying the extra coat, extra protection by Dixie Belle, but all the YouTube tutorials that I can come up with cover all of the top coats except for that one. I will say that the rep that I bought it from advises it's the closest to gator hide of any of the top coats. And the thing about gator hide, which they have always been out of stock in until more recently, I think she's finally getting her order filled, and that's why I don't have that to try. I actually would have preferred to have that on here. But the trick with gator hide is misting your applicator first. So in order to try to keep things smooth, but what I noticed about the clear coat when I used the blue sponge and was trying to drag it was grippy. So I'm going to attempt to use the blue sponge again, because nothing that I am finding gives any other information. And I'm going to mist it with water first. And also I saw from another person, I think it's Christina, and I forget, I know she's out of Tennessee, but I forget the name of her company. But anyway, when she applied one of the top coats, she actually kind of left the sponge at an angle and dragged it across. I had the sponge flat, and that is so much grippier. So I'm gonna try misting it for a little bit of moisture, added moisture, so it'll go over smooth, and I'm gonna try putting it at an angle and working it across. So it's either to do it like that or to go against the directions and use a roller again, but this time using a sponge roller and misting the sponge roller first. But the roller that I used was supposed to be a pretty low pile, like leaving a smoothness behind, and it did not. So I think that I should probably try to go by what the directions are saying with the blue sponge applicator, but mist it and use it at an angle. Also, you can see, because of the sanding, I was just stressing it back some. I saw that that was happening, and I actually really liked it, so I went ahead and continued on with it, and it helped try to, I guess, exaggerate this oval and try to follow the inside oval with the distressing kind of right along the side to try to take the eye off of where the corners of the paper actually are. So all about trying to tease the eye, I guess. It's not supposed to necessarily be saturated, but this extra coat is a water soluble, and a lot of times when you're finding that water soluble products are tracking or feeling sticky, it's good to add a little bit of moisture to the applicators. And I guess I should just understand that to being the same with everything, and not like feeling like I need to rediscover something every time I use a new product. There are individual instructions with products, but also there's a lot of basics that apply that should be considered as well. So my hand is a little bit wet, and I'm putting some moisture on the table. We'll just let that dry for a second. So I need to try to keep myself from working over the same spot too much. Well, I think this time overall I was successful in keeping it thinner. I think there's going to be some tracking marks a little bit. It just kind of looks like even though it's a sponge, it's still leaving what would be brush marks. With lighting as it's drying, this is what I'm seeing. Even though, let me see if I can get it. Even though it's an application with a sponge, I'm still seeing what looks like brush marks. So yes, this technique, doing it more correctly this time than the first time, is definitely better than the texture that was left behind by the roller, but I will have to wait till it's completely dry to really make a judgment call. I do know that by adding another layer after that, it will also help cover up some of those marks too. So I think that I'll hold my judgment till a second coat. Okay, so still working on the tabletop. Still trying to get a good seal and a good coat. I think I'm finally getting it thin enough. Each time I put a layer on, it seems like the streaking is less and less. So this will be a third coat of the extra coat, and we'll just try to continue putting on thin coats until I like how it looks, I guess. It's already seeming pretty dry back here and around on that side. So if need be, I can put a fourth coat on, but I'm hoping this will be the final coat. So I'll let you know.